The NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. They just launched the new game mode ladders. 1 up to 500 times your entry. Plus, when you sign up for a new account, use the promo code NBSGPN, get a $1,000 bonus credit. We're also brought to you by Edge Boost. Bank can build for better. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet with the promo code SGPN to get a $25 deposit match bonus. And welcome, everybody, to the NBA Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Friday morning, May 9th, around 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm Rose episode Scout Reichel, joined again by Lonte Smith. Together, we're going to break down the Friday card. Yesterday was kind of weird, only one game on the card, and it was pretty boring, to be honest. But either way, nice to have a bit more action on Friday. Lonte, how's it going with you?
Pretty good, man. Glad it's Friday. We've got some good games coming up, so looking forward to see what's going to transpire out of these teams that are down 2-0.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how much, I'd say, mental toughness we're going to see from particularly the Cavs tonight and then the Celtics over the weekend, because you have two shocking teams that are down 2-0. But either way, point is, before we get into any of the games and before we get into the recap for the game yesterday, I want to remind you once again that we have an app. If you want to find all of our picks and podcasts for free on the App Store, download the free SGPN app in the App Store today. Now, starting off with the recap of the only game that was on the card yesterday, the Timberwolves even up the series, won the game comfortably. They went up 20 on two separate occasions in the game and eventually did coast to a nice 24-point win. Bit scary, though, for Minnesota because Ant got injured and then he ended up coming back, and I thought he looked fine. Didn't really have to do anything in the second half, but at least Ant's healthy. That looked like it could have been really bad, and he was able to avoid serious injury. I know I swept the podcast. I had the team total under for Golden State at like 95.5. They finished with 93. And I had Gary Payton II under 10.5 PR at plus 138. And I think he had 1. So that was easy for me too. But overall, very ugly game. Kind of like what we expected it to be. Golden State, the main issue. Without Curry, how are they going to score? And they don't know how they're going to score. I'd say the most exciting thing for the Warriors was Draymond hitting Naz Reid in the face. That's kind of the most exciting thing that happened for Golden State. But I'll ask you, Kuminga played well. But I'll ask you for the actual Game 2 first. Then we'll go big picture. Any takeaways from Game 2? Anything surprising?
Not really surprising. I thought it played out kind of how I perceived it to. Glad Ant was able to come back. Maybe he'll over this little, I guess, the day off that they have, he can learn to make a layup because he's been horrible on layups. But outside of that, man, I thought it was pretty much cut and dry. Jimmy Butler was horrible. He hasn't been that good in the playoffs. He had a game or two or maybe a stretch or two where he was fine, but he's been underwhelming.
He had a couple of big games against Houston. He was good in Game 1, but for the most part, he's been pretty passive to Curry, which makes sense. But without Curry in the lineup, you were hoping he'd be a bit more aggressive, and he was not.
Yeah, he took 5 shots in the first half. That just shows you how the lack of aggression there. I think he had 13 on the game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was 6 of 13.
Yeah, so that wasn't good at all. And I think he's got to be a little bit more, a lot more assertive now that Curry's out of the lineup. And he just he just didn't look like he had it. Kuminga looked really good. I mean, he was so good that he was a minus, I think, like 9 on the plus minus. But
I know he started 8 of 9 from the floor. I don't know how he finished. He actually,
he started like 8 of 8. I thought.
Yeah, he was 8 for 11. From the floor.
Yeah, so he missed his last 3. Yeah, but I mean, I thought his energy was good. I thought Kerr, I mean, he kind of threw in the towel. You can see with the rotations early on. I think Jimmy kind of just didn't look good at all. The Draymond thing is what it is. But on Minnesota's side, I thought they didn't play particularly well throughout the game. I mean, Ant was bad. He had 7 points in the first half. I know he missed a chunk of that second quarter with the ankle injury, but I thought he wasn't good early on. He was missing some of the shots that he normally makes, and this was pre-ankle injury. Coming back, I mean, it was good to see him back, but you kind of knew he was going to be somewhat limited. And like you said, he didn't have to do a ton with the lead there. One thing that I would love to see is just get away from the Gobert minutes. They're horrible. I mean, he's horrible. He can't catch the ball. He can't make a layup. He can barely grab a rebound. I would just not play him at all. I mean, if you saw that run that they made in the second quarter, into the third quarter, it was with him on the bench. So, I mean, this might not be the series for him.
By comparison, by the way, Naz Reid played 30 minutes. He made 3 threes, 11 points, plus 18.
Yeah, so, I mean, just not the series for him. Nall was incredible. I thought the defense, McDaniels continues to be incredible. I thought his defense was really good on Jimmy Butler. Just overall, I think that the Timberwolves can play a lot better. And the Warriors just lack of, a ball handler, a creator outside of Jimmy is just not there. And that it plays right into the hands of what Minnesota wants to do defensively. So, yeah, I mean, that is a little bit of big picture stuff, but yeah, just it's what I expected from last night. I expected them to come out and blow them out, and they did.
Yeah, I thought Golden State, if they were going to actually win the game, would have to make it ugly. It was ugly. They were getting blown out. They cut it to 7, and then Minnesota remembered that to actually, win the game, and they ended up going up by 20 again. But Randall was solid. He had 24, 7, and 11. McDaniels had 16 points to go with the good defense and had a quiet 20. It was fine. He had 9 rebounds. Thought he played well. Didn't force the issue, which I liked. You mentioned Na before, who ended up having 20 points off the bench, so good for him. Reed was pretty good too. Gobert was not good, as you said before, but it didn't matter as they won anyway. Do want to ask you, though, for Golden State, I'm trying to think of what moves they have left, and I have no idea because the team offensively was pretty top-heavy to begin with Curry and with Butler, and now without Curry. I mean, Hield gave you 15, which is honestly fine, and you still couldn't really do anything offensively the entire game. Like, I don't know what your moves are. Yeah. So I guess what I'm asking you is, how can the Warriors win without Curry for the next week? Or are they just a dead team walking? Because I don't know, unless Minnesota misses a bunch of threes again and you win a very ugly, like 92-90 game, I don't know how you're supposed to score enough points to beat this Minnesota team.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, just defensively, I think Minnesota is just like too good to be able to be beaten without a primary ball handler or somebody that can create your offense. I mean, they're so reliant on Jimmy, and his usage rate has not been, like it hasn't coincided with what his production needs to be for them to be in a specific spot. So I think that they have to just have, a monster series from Pods, Hield. All of those guys have to play better collectively and not just like, okay, Hield plays good here, because Pods hasn't been good at all. But in order to beat them, they gotta be raining from 3. Draymond has to continue shooting. Draymond's been shooting the ball well. I mean, his antics are what they are, but he's been shooting the ball well.
He was not good yesterday, but he was off a monster game, so it was expected he was going to struggle.
Yeah. So I think all those guys have to contribute at a high level, and I mean like 16 to 17 points each, plus Jimmy scoring like 35. I mean, that's just because the thing is, whenever it was easier for Buddy Hield to score whenever he's getting, Mike Conley or DiVincenzo or somebody else on him. Now he's getting basically Ant and McDaniels like switched off of him, multiple possessions. So it's harder for him to kind of get loose. And with a lot of, attention being to Jimmy, he's getting that secondary defender, and it's not allowing their offense to run as fluent as they want to run. So it's going to be tough, man. Like even if Minnesota is missing shots, I think they still can win just because of their defense and the lack of playmaking.
They're so much deeper than this team, too.
Yeah, and the lack of playmaking for the Warriors. I mean, if you can't break down the Timberwolves off the dribble, I mean, good luck. Good luck.
I mean, it's why I went into the game, saw a team total of 95.5 and said, yeah, sure, they're not getting to 96. Like, sure, I'll take that. And it was cruising for most of the game. Golden State had 39 points at the half. Game opened up a bit in garbage time, but the point is they finished with 93. I was never really that scared. I know maybe you could argue like one possession sweat at the end, but really no. I thought Golden State was just going to go under. I did not think they'd reach 90 for most of the game, so it was a bit more of a sweat than I anticipated, but I thought they'd go under. They did, and Gary Payton in the second. Look, I understand that he gives you good defense, but when your team can't score, he can't be on the court. Like, he's not going to give you anything. The only value that Payton really had was the rolling on the slip screens with Curry. Both Curry being out and his gravity taking guys away from the basket, if you have Gobert or Reed constantly in the middle, I don't know what Gary Payton II is going to do for you because he can't shoot. So Golden State needs all the offense they can get. You mentioned needing a couple of guys. I said this yesterday. They need Butler to step up, Hield to step up, Podziemski to step up. Truth is, Hield has always been more of a catch-and-shoot guy anyway. He has to show off a bit more of the handle, which we don't like, but they don't have a choice. So Hield's a guy who I feel like 15 is honestly kind of what I expect from Hield in a game-in, game-out basis at this point. I'm not expecting 33 points in like an elimination game on basically like 90% shooting. So I see Hield being a 15 points per game guy as kind of like a half ceiling. I don't expect much from that besides, the 15 plus points for me for Hield. Podziemski, as you said, has been bad or fine. I think he needs to go for about 18 to 20 in these games. And you're looking at Butler, who needs to be more aggressive. But they just don't have enough guys. And I feel like Golden State, it's why I was so lower on this team entering the postseason. I picked them to beat Houston in 7 games, but I thought Minnesota would win the series in 6. And I know I might have been a bit, I'd say, lucky with my prediction that Curry got hurt because they looked good in game 1. But they just don't have enough supporting cast guys that I actually trust to step up for multiple games in a row. And if Minnesota ends up winning every game that Curry misses, I would not be surprised. I don't think anybody would be surprised. I'd be surprised if Golden State won a game with Curry being out of the lineup because this roster is just not deep enough to overcome the absence of one of their best players. And the fact that they were able to win game 1 was kind of shocking with Curry being out, but that was also because Minnesota couldn't hit a shot. So Minnesota came out with aggression. They came out with focus. They were up 13-0 in the first 6 minutes of the game. So they knew from the get-go, we got to jump this team, and they were able to do so. I'm trying to think of counters Golden State has, and to be honest, they don't have much because the roster's not very good.
They tried it all.
Yeah, they threw everyone out there and said, please give me something. And Kuminga actually gave them some decent minutes.
Trace was good, too.
Anyway.
Yeah, Trace was good, too.
Trace was good. He was 6 of 6. I think he had 15 points, but
you're
just going down the roster, and you're just not thrilled with anybody. So I'll go with, once again, a wishful thinking approach for Golden State. If we get this production from our supporting cast, and if Minnesota misses a lot of shots, then we have a chance. But that basically tells you they don't have much of a chance. And you're trying to stall as long as possible until Curry comes back. You're hoping you could somehow win another game. Truth is, Minnesota should be embarrassed if they lose another game with Curry being out of the lineup. They need to win all these games.
I don't think Steph comes back.
I think if he does come back, it's for game 6. The problem is we might not get a game 6. Parentheses, if necessary. I don't know if we're going to get that. So
I don't think so either. But I don't think he comes back. That hamstring with the way he moves. Yeah, it's going to be tough.
And he said he's not going to rush it back. Maybe he comes back for one game and he's at 50%. But even with that might not be good enough.
Yeah, it's not going to be. Nope.
So, yeah, Minnesota's in a very good spot to advance. We'll see what happens, but I was not surprised by what happened in Game 2. However, I want to briefly talk about what happened in the postgame because Draymond hit Naz Reid in the face. Then he complained to the media that there is an agenda out against him to make him look like a, quote, angry black man. I'm going to ask you about this because I think it's just an insanely... I think it's just an insane way to twist the dirty antics that Draymond's had over the years to claim that there's an agenda against him. Whether you want to talk about racial components or not, he's arguably the dirtiest NBA player in the entire league's history. And he basically did the same thing he did to Fred VanVleet in that Houston series, where he drew a foul, extended his arms, and just punched the guy in the face. Got a technical foul, and now is complaining about that there's an agenda against him. Maybe you're just a dirty player. Is that a hot take? Am I onto something here?
I mean, Draymond's just... he's ridiculous, man.
I don't know where that came from, by the way. He's going about agenda. I don't know what we're talking about here. We're not mad at you because of your race. We're mad at you because you keep hurting people on the other team.
Of all races.
Finding ways in every game to get technical fouls or flagrant fouls. You're just punching people in the face. Yeah, that's why we're mad at you.
Yeah, man, this is uncalled for. I mean, just trying to play the victim, I guess. And, it's weird, man. I don't know. He just needs to the counseling is not working, evidently.
How did he not get ejected, by the way, yesterday? He had a temper tantrum for 3 minutes. How did he not get ejected?
Yeah, and you heard Van Gundy say he just need to go to the locker room for the rest of the quarter. I never heard that in my life.
See, I couldn't tell if they meant that the Warriors should send him there to get a head start on the actual halftime, or if they meant the refs should eject him from the game. I mean, he was arguing that call for 3 minutes. Then he kept yelling from the bench.
Yeah, what was there to argue, though?
There wasn't anything to argue. He punched Nas in the face.
Right.
Or you can argue that he half elbowed him, but either way, the point is he did the flailing arm thing and hit the guy. First of all, I don't know how Adam Silver hasn't stepped in and at least potentially, I don't want to say a suspension, but if they suspended him, I wouldn't be against it because it's been every game. There's been an instance for him. And if you want to go through the long, list of, controversial actions that Draymond's had over the years, the Steven Adams nut kick That was 9 years ago. That was 2016.
Wow,
He
that's a long time
stomped on
ago.
Sabonis. He's had a bunch of moments. He tried to. He punched Nurkic. He choked Gobert. There's a bunch of moments here for Draymond. I think he's the dirtiest player in NBA history, and it's nothing against his overall skill on the court. He's a future Hall of Famer. He's an all-time great defensive player. That has nothing to do with what I'm saying. The point is, you're a dirty basketball player who tries to hurt the opponents in every game of basically this postseason. And yet he's using up all his technical fouls and his flagrants. He found a loophole, basically, in the NBA flagrant technical foul system where you can just keep doing all this stuff, and as long as it's not a flagrant 2, you stay in the game. So he kind of found a loophole. I think Adam Silver should have stopped this at some point and basically said, one more instance, you're suspended. But either way, Draymond had that soundbite in the post-game presser, which I thought was embarrassing on his behalf. But I'll ask if you have any counters or any thoughts you want to share there, because I thought that it was just him being a dirty player, and he's trying to spin it to a racial narrative, which I just don't see. I just think he's a dirty player.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything else to add. I mean, that's just so crazy that he said that. I couldn't believe he said that. But yeah, I mean, you probably gave this a little bit more than what it should have gone. But whatever. I mean, Draymond he's not going to change, as you can see. Maybe Silver.
No, he can't help himself.
Yeah,
it's just what he does.
Yeah, but if Ja was to do a gun celebration, he'll get fined. But Draymond can punch people in the face.
I do want to ask you: am I missing something with the actual, I'd say, loophole that he found with the flagrants and the technical fouls? Because I know that eventually you get to a certain point where he gets suspended. You got like a 6 tech or a 6 flagrant head start before you actually start to get suspended. Adam Silver's got to step in, right, at some point. I don't know how you can get a technical or a flagrant every game and just not have any other repercussions here.
Well, my thing is he hasn't so far, so I don't think he's going to do so now.
No, I'm just saying for future reference, though. You got to change the actual layout. This just doesn't make any sense.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the rule. Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm saying the rule itself. I'm not saying that they're going to end up suspending Draymond mid-postseason without this, but I just don't understand how you have I think it's the 6x6 for technicals and for flagrants. And if Draymond's laying out the blueprint on why this is a very stupid rule, you might want to reduce it down to 3 each or 2 each. 6 each is crazy.
I agree with that.
So, wanted to just mention that. I think that the fact that it happens every game, there's got to be some rule adjustment moving forward, because this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
But either way, point is we'll see if Draymond gets thrown out in Game 3. Before we get into any of the actual breakdown for the Game 3 they're going to see on Friday, a reminder that you can, first of all, find all of our picks and podcasts on the SGPN app. And a reminder, we're also brought to you by Circa Ultimate Fantasy Football giveaway, because Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas giving away the ultimate fantasy football experience for a 12-person league draft in Vegas and be treated like VIPs for their stay. When we receive a 2-night stay at Circa Resort and Casino for the entire 12-person league, hold your draft at the Cabana at Stadium Swim with a $5,000 food and beverage credit, limo transportation to and from the airport, a welcome party at a Legacy Club for the league, a reservation at the World Order Sportsbook with a $500 beverage credit for the league. And a reminder that you can also enter the contest from May 5th to June 30th. Enter at sportsgamblebox.com/circa, sportsgamblebox.com/CIRCA. We're also brought to you by Edge Boost, the first ever banking bill for bettors. They're ensuring that all gambling transactions are approved. No usage fees and no imbalance. Also earning cash rewards. 100% approval for opening deposits. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet. Promo code SGPN. And a reminder, you can also deposit $25. Edge's match deposit. That's edgeboost.bet. Promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, because they just launched a new game mode ladders. Earn up to 500 times your money by watching your favorite players climb the ladder. And when you sign up for your new account, use the promo code NBSGPN. Go to special pick and a first-time deposit offer up to 1K more. So on Fantasy, promo code NBASGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Game Podcast. Finish recapping what happened on a Thursday. Time to move on into the 2 games on the card for Friday. Starting off with the first game, the Cavaliers down 2-0, traveling to Indy, and they are favored in this game. Indiana right now is the only team to not drop a home game so far, but the Cavs are laying 3.5. The over-unders are 229.5, and for the injury report, questionable tags on Mobley, Garland, and Hunter. You're assuming they're going to play, or at least 2 of them are going to play, because they really have to if they want to have a shot to avoid going down 3-0. Indiana, though, fully healthy. They pulled off a miracle comeback there at the end of Game 2. Shout out to Halliburton, Mr. Overrated, who came back and had the game winner there in Game 2. I'll ask you, though, for this matchup, because Indiana's kind of had Cleveland's number recently. Cleveland, we don't know if Mobley's going to play. We're assuming they'll play, but not at 100%. Do you think Cleveland, first of all, bless you, do you think Cleveland should be favored by 3.5 on the road, despite not knowing who's actually playing in this game?
This is a tough line to set, and I think that you would have to 3.5 is meaning that all three of those guys are playing. This cannot be 3.5 if all three of those guys aren't playing. Because we saw them laying 10 or 9.5 in the first game, and this was just without
First
Garland.
game was around 9 or 8.5. Second game, I believe, was 6. And then and then this is the third game. According to the shoot-around reports, all three were at shoot-around before Game 3.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that all three of these guys are going to play. I mean, 3.5 is a monster number if they don't. But at least 2 of the 3, like you said, and I think somebody in chat was talking about Garland probably won't play, which I think is fine, and it's pretty typical with the number. So I think the number is about right if 2 of those 3 play. I mean, Mobley obviously is one of the bigger. He's one of the bigger contributors in this series simply because of his versatility to be able to guard and also score in the mid-range. He also can help guard Miles Turner, who's had extreme success. I think he kind of spearheaded that comeback in Game 2 with a couple of those threes that he made. So Mobley can kind of neutralize that. He also can help Allen on the boards, helps with spacing as well, so they're not clogging up the paint, driving lanes for Spider. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Cavs here. Just granted, I think the number is what it is. I'm not really scared of the number. Just, price-wise, I think it's about right. Pacers did survive that home run effort for the Cavs, and that is concerning. But again, a flip of venue. I think the Cavs get out of Cleveland. They hear out all the noise. I think they'll play better here. We gotta have the discussion of like who's gonna play. I think he's like shuffling the guys a little bit too much. I know that he, with the 3 guys being out, that it kind of like hurt the rotation. But he's got to figure out who plays well with who in a short amount of time, because you can't have all these guys out there with no ball handlers. You can't have Donovan Mitchell being the only ball handler and the only scorer out there.
Well, the issue you run into, though, that you're kind of addressing is the fact that they do have another ball handler, but he's been horrific because Ty Jerome's been awful in the series.
Yeah, exactly. So he has to be 1,000% better, and I think he will be in this specific spot. So I like the Cavs. I think they play better, especially with those 2 guys back. If all 3 of those guys are back, then for sure, I think that they win this game and a pivotal Game 4 on Sunday.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm going to agree with you. Maybe it's just because I do think Cleveland is better than what they've shown so far, and maybe just because I am expecting Mobley and Hunter and Garland to come back. I'm not sure if Hunter does anything. He's got a messed up finger on his shooting hand, which is not going to get better immediately, so he might have some issues. But I think Garland being back would be a big deal. Jerome, I think, is a lot better in a smaller sample. Jerome's fun for about 20 minutes. When you start pushing to like 28 or 30, it's problematic. But I do think that you're looking at the Pacers, who still have some moments where they have some lapses defensively. They were very good at coming back regular season and playoffs from deficits. But I still think they get themselves into a hole a bit too often. And I think that Cleveland can definitely show up as the more, I'd say, desperate team, obviously. And I can see them maybe stealing this game. I do want to ask you, though, for this matchup, do you think there's more pressure on Cleveland or more pressure on Indiana?
I think it's always pressure on the home team, because you have to win this game and not give them confidence. And we talked about it with the Warriors and Minnesota series. The more time it takes, the healthier those guys get on the Cleveland side. So you want to just put them in the dirt, because once it's 3-0, it's pretty much a done deal. So with that being said, it's an immense pressure on the Pacers, because now you flip to the favorite. So now you're supposed to win the series. So all the pressure's on the home team in this specific series. And I know we'll talk about it tomorrow, but for the Knicks as well. So I believe that a lot of pressure is on the Pacers.
That's why I was asking, because a lot of people basically addressed the same concern with the Celtics and the Knicks series. And I know that Inside the NBA talked about it. They said that it was a must-win game for the Knicks in Game 3 because of how unexpected this was. Mm-hmm. And yet nobody really tried to apply the same logic to the Indiana series. So that's why I'm actually wondering if you agree that it is basically a must-win game for both teams.
I do. Yep, I do.
So I think I am going to pick Cleveland. I know Indiana's undefeated at home. They were also down a ton to Milwaukee and then came back and won that closeout game. So it wasn't like they were amazing at home. They were just able to survive against, and I'd say, a compromised opponent. Cleveland, at the end of the day, the Game 2 choke job was completely just shocking to me. The Thunder one, you could kind of like half see coming with the Nuggets hanging around, with the Thunder offense kind of shutting down, and with the very early fouls by Daigneault. The Cleveland one came out of nowhere because they were winning the entire game. You got a putback dunk from Nesmith. You got a Mitchell turnover because he elbowed Nesmith. Then Strus turns it over on the inbound, and you just had pure chaos. You had a rebound off a missed free throw. It wasn't even an intentional miss. Then he made the three-pointer. I thought that was the most shocking loss of the entire postseason, was the Cavs blowing that massive lead at home and then giving up that insane flurry in the final 40 seconds. The Milwaukee one, actually, against Indiana in overtime was also pretty bad with the Gary Trent Jr. turnovers. I'll go with Cleveland, though, maybe just because of what I mentioned before, that I just don't want to lay any points with home teams, because the home court advantage has been priced in, and they have not been very good, the home teams, in this overall season of postseason action. So I'm going to go with the Cavs here, -3.5. I understand the argument. If you want to take Indiana, they see blood in the water, they'll go for it. But you know what? I think Cleveland, with the season they had, with them being healthy, I hope for their sake they show up and actually take care of business tonight. I'm going to give it to them. I don't think it's going to be easy.
Yeah,
but
no,
I think
definitely not going to be easy.
I think Cleveland shows up with a purpose, and they show up with effort, and I think they play a good game here. And I still am concerned with Indiana that Mitchell got exhausted at the end of regulation. But I do have concerns with Indiana's defense because they can't stop this guy. So if Mitchell's going to walk into 30 in almost every game of the series and Garland comes back and maybe he gives you a nice 15 points, that's just the extra bit of scoring depth you needed to take the pressure off Mitchell, let him take some possessions off, conserve some energy at the end, and then use him again as a closer. So I'll go with Cleveland, -3.5 here. Think they'll win this game by like 7. Close game, entertaining. Think Cleveland wins. I like the over in the game.
Yeah.
Both teams want to play fast. We've seen high-scoring games in Game 1 and Game 2. I'll keep taking the over until one of these games go under. But give me the over in this one with Cleveland winning. Thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I mean, I think I said from the beginning, I'll just bet over in every single game just because of the pace that both of these teams play. And ironically, both of their transition defense is one of the best in the NBA, but they just can't stop each other from being in transition. And the pace and the pressure that the Pacers put on teams, causes turnovers like we saw in the last minute and a half to 2 minutes of that game to get them back in it. So I think both teams will be able to, push the pace. If the Cavs get all three of those guys back, this is something that the Pacers have not seen since the regular season, since the regular season. So they're going to have to adjust their game plan a little bit to that. So I think that's, a feather in the cap of the Cavs offensively to be able to have more scores. You get Ty Jerome back in that limited role where he's a lot more effective. And I think both of these teams will be able to score here.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at the actual numbers here. Cleveland was up 17 after a quarter, came out, punched him in the mouth. Mitchell scored 48. Now, he was exhausted, fell apart down the stretch. I get it, but when Jerome's 1 of 14, you're going to have to basically use Mitchell until he can't move anymore. And unfortunately, Mitchell ended up running out of gas. That's kind of what happened.
Not being able to move anymore.
Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly what happened. Cleveland has not shot the 3-ball well, and that was what they were known for in the regular season. They could be in store for a good game there. They were up 20. They fell apart there. Indiana's done a good job on the boards, though. They shot 51.8% from the floor. Cleveland defensively has been kind of a mess, and Mobley would help clean that up because we know Mobley won Defensive Player of the Year. So I think that Mobley can definitely help with his presence alone with rim protection. That might be enough for Cleveland to win this game, but I'll go with Cleveland in this one, and I am going to go with the over. See, Free Sauce mentioning Nesmith over points. He's been very good. I got nothing against Nesmith here.
Really
good. A solid option at 12.5 as well. Moving on to the second game on the card. You have the Thunder in Game 3 taking on the Nuggets. They won Game 2 by about 90. Scored 149 points. Game was over in the first, basically, 6 minutes, and they coasted. Denver, though, is happy because they won home court advantage again, as they were able to win Game 1 against Oklahoma City. Thunder, though, based on the injury report, are basically fully healthy. Same thing with Denver, even though Porter Jr. can't lift his arm. I'll ask you for this game, though. Thunder laying 5.5 on the road. The over-under is at 232.5. The Thunder are clearly the better team. However, Denver has experience in the power of friendship. So I'm going to ask you, for this matchup itself, do you think Denver, with the altitude after getting blown out, shows up for game 3 and actually gives this team a fight? Or did OKC figure this team out and they're going to come out and smack this team?
Well, I don't. So, two things. I think the Thunder win the game. I think Denver covers. So I like the 5.5. I don't think the altitude will bother OKC at all. I mean, all those young guys. I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's always an adjustment period, no matter how young or how old you are.
Also, a lot of time off in between games.
Yeah. So I think they'll be fine. But and as far as figuring out, I think that was just a home run effort by the Thunder. They did what they were supposed to do. They responded. You saw the Nuggets kind of. I don't want to say tank the game, but they knew it was kind of over in the first half.
They got punched in the mouth and said, "We're up 1-0. We're good."
Fine, yeah. So they should be a lot more feistier at home. The role players should play a lot better. I think you see Christian Brown. Christian Brown has not played particularly well. He's rebounded the ball well, but he hasn't really shot the ball well, and they're giving him those shots. But I expect those guys to play better. Russ has to continue to do what Russ has been doing, even in a blowout. I mean, we talked about his energy, his effort. It's always going to be there. We saw the jumper has been a little more consistent over the last few games if you bleed into that Clipper series. So, I mean, Joker's going to be Joker. You got to get more from Murray, and I don't know what you're going to do with Porter, but you got to get more from Murray. I think Murray has to be in that 25 to 28 point range to be able to kind of keep this close with a chance to win it. And, down the stretch, if Joker's in the game, you always have an opportunity to win it. So the Thunder, they did a lot of different things. We talked about Jalen Williams, Jay Will, being put on Joker a lot more, and he did that. He was like the first guy off the bench versus Isaiah Joe or Aaron Wiggins, and I thought he did an outstanding job. He was able to stretch the floor. He was pestering Joker, kind of speeding him up a little bit, and they were playing him more one-on-one than anything and allowing Chet to play help side. So I thought that was big. Now, obviously, Joker's going to adjust and do his thing, so it's going to be how Dagnall counters that. So I'm interested to see that part. But I do think the Nuggets keep it close. I think this will be an outstanding game. I think the Thunder learn from their mistakes in game 1 and be able to put it away at the free throw line, maybe by 2 or 3 points. So I like the Nuggets with the points, but I like the Thunder to win the game.
Yeah, I feel like it was mentioned in the comment section with JT Mack asking if Scott Foster was reffing, because whatever the hell that was in game 2 was a mess. Joker fouled out in 3 quarters. The Thunder were allowed to be physical with him, and they dominated the entire game. Now, the question also comes down to how the game will be officiated tonight. We do see Ben Taylor available, and we also see James Capers. You have no Scott Foster tonight in either game, by the way, so something to keep in mind. But the issue is still there for Denver, which is them being outplayed for basically 7 of the 8 quarters of the series so far, and they were able to win a game. But OKC is so much better than this team, just from top to bottom. Mm-hmm. And Joker and the rebounding is really how Denver gets back into the series, or maybe even steals the lead in the series again, is if they dominate the boards. They did so in game 1. Game 2, OKC made everything, so I'm not going to read too much into it. But Shea was great. He had, I think, he had 34 points in 3 quarters. You're looking at, I thought J-Dub played pretty well. Thought Chet was good defensively. It felt like everything went right for OKC. So I'm not going to overreact to what we saw in game 2. But that does also point out to why OKC was a massive favorite in the series. It was because OKC is, in my opinion, the best team in the entire league. I think that their depth is undeniable. Their talent's there. Dagnall was really bad in the final minute, or I should say couple minutes of game 1. I still think he's a solid coach, at least compared to other coaches around the league. So I do think that Dagnall can make adjustments. We saw that in game 2. Think that he can make life difficult for Denver. The Porter Jr. injury is massive, because they don't really have a lot of great scoring options. Mm-hmm. Gordon's been great. Murray's been kind of underwhelming. I know he had 40-plus points in 1 game against the Clippers, but he's been kind of quiet. Joker's Joker, but without much depth, you don't really have much. And Westbrook's been giving you some good energy, but you know that can be extremely risky to rely on him to be a key focal point of the offense. So I just think OKC's got more depth. They're the better team, defensively, offensively, you name it. And the question is, do I think home court advantage will matter in this first game, where Denver can use the altitude in theory, use the energy, and find a way to win this game? Truth is, OKC really needs to beat themselves. And they did so in game 1. But if Denver keeps the game close, the question is, will you see the Thunder unravel? They might. But I think 5.5 actually sounds pretty fair to me. Mm-hmm. I think OKC should be favored in this game. I think they should be favored by, if you wanted to argue 6.5 or more, I wouldn't even argue with you because of what we just saw in Game 2. If you ignore just most of Game 2, because that was all in favor of OKC and Denver might have, in theory, punted the game, I think OKC wins this game by, in my opinion, 10. I think OKC will be up by 10 plus at some point. I think they'll win the game. The only way Denver keeps it close is if they dominate the boards. And I thought that the Thunder did a better job rebounding in Game 2.
They did.
It just felt like nobody on the Nuggets could really get going. Denver shot 40+% from 3, and they still only scored 106 points. They got out rebounded 44-38. So you're expecting Denver to bounce back rebounding-wise in this game. But they couldn't stay in front of anybody.
Yeah. Do you have the possessions in front of you? I'm sorry to cut you
off. No, it's fine. Possessions. I see Oklahoma City had 2 more field goal attempts. That's all I got.
Yeah, so because okay, it's only 1 more possession, but yeah, I thought the speed of OKC, like whenever they from the jump ball, they wanted to get like up and down the court on both ends.
That I have. OKC won the fast break points 26-5.
Yeah, and I thought that was evident in how they wanted to play. They were running up and down the floor. They put a lot more above the I guess full court pressure on Jamal Murray, kind of making him turn a little bit here and there and force them into their sets a little bit later. So I thought that was a good kind of wrinkle that Dagnall went to. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought.
No, it's all good. I just think at the end of the day, the Thunder realized what they had to do, which is run. You have to run. And they were able to do so. And you mentioned it, the fast break points. They also dominated points in the paint. Thunder made a serious adjustment to actually clogging the middle, and they won the points in the paint battle 52-28. Now, I understand that the Nuggets shot about 37.9% from the floor, and the Thunder shot 56.2%, but the Thunder got a bunch of easy looks. And I wonder how Denver can adjust, besides trying to slow the game down as much as possible. But the Thunder, I just think, are that much better than this team in terms of talent. And the only way into it is if Denver makes the game physical and make the game ugly, and the Thunder fall apart again. That's kind of where I'm at. But the Thunder, I think, are the best team in the league. I think we'd agree on that. They won 68 games in the regular season. And the only question was, can the supporting cast, who was really bad against Dallas last year and was really bad in Game 1, can they step up for a series? And even if I'm not as high on J-Dub and Chet yet, we'll see how they look as the series progresses. I do think Denver is very top-heavy, and OKC has so much depth that they can overwhelm Denver with their, I'd say, energy and with their, once again, depth. I think that can give this roster a problem, and I do think it's a bad matchup for Denver. So I'll go OKC in this one. If you want to argue Denver, you want to go maybe OKC 1-10. You think it's a close game, OKC wins. I'll pick a somewhat close game, though. I'll go OKC by about 8 if you wanted to score here. But I think Game 2, you could argue Denver just punted. But I do think it showed what OKC can do to really frustrate Denver and what they can do to win the series. And I don't know what the counters are for Denver. Because OKC wants to run. They have so many young guys that are just going to beat you down the court. And besides Denver, you have Murray, who's been, I'd say, underwhelming for the most part this postseason, besides a couple of good games. Joker, who you still have Chet, you still have, of course, Hartenstein. You can use multiple guys on Joker to at least make it difficult for him. And besides that, what do you have? Because Porter Jr. can't lift his arms. You really don't have much scoring depth. That's the problem you have with this team. So you need Murray to have one of those games. If Murray shows up at home, drops 35, you got a shot. But if Murray's not going to have the game that we're waiting for, they really have a limited number of scoring options. That's the problem you run into. So that's where I'm at. So either way.
Is he saying that is he saying the OKC bench is worse than Golden State? We serious?
That's the argument he's making. I mean, if you want to make the argument that Caruso could be a bench guy in theory, I don't agree, by the way.
Yeah,
but I think the Thunder's bench is not bad. I don't think Joe's been really doing anything. Jalen Williams doesn't really play much. I don't mind him as a backup, like stretch 5 center kind of, but I do think with Wallace and with the guys they have, the defensive intensity they bring is something that most benches, pretty much no benches in the league actually have. They have so many good on-ball defenders that they can just swap in and out. And if they want to frustrate Murray with Dort, then you throw in Caruso. Caruso only played 10 minutes, by the way, in game 2. You throw in Wiggins, who I like. You throw in Cason Wallace, who I like. They have a lot of guys who can play really good defense. Denver doesn't really have that.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. Well, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying, like, I don't know. Yeah. That's weird. Yeah, that's weird.
But I see Free Sauce mentioning Westbrook's playing 30-plus minutes because they don't have a choice. You're right. They don't have a choice because with Porter Jr.'s injury, they have to throw Westbrook out there for energy purposes. And you could argue that maybe he can give you a great game as well. Westbrook had a pretty good game in game 2. He had 19 points. In fact, he led the entire team in points, and it didn't matter. He was 5'11". He was a negative 30 in 22 minutes. It was a mess from the get-go. So I'm not going to overreact too much to game 2, but I do think that Oklahoma City, if they're able to control the pace of the game and they're able to run, they will get a bunch of free looks in transition if they force Joker to run up and down the court. And you should do it anyway because Denver has no bench, so you want to make all of the Denver starters use so much energy, expend so much energy on defense by running up and down the court. So I think that's going to work well to OKC's, I'd say, favor here. Give me OKC minus the 5.5 in this game. For the total, I think I like the over because OKC has to run, but it might be correlated. If Denver covers, you probably like the under.
Yeah.
If OKC covers, you probably want the over. So
it's I'm kind of conflicted because I like the Nuggets and the points, but I still think it's a way that they can play a little bit better defensively to maybe limit the Thunder in certain aspects. They'll have to limit that transition. But the issue is they just don't have enough bodies to do so. And when the Thunder are able to the biggest difference between the Thunder and, pretty much anybody, but specifically in this series, is that they can sit Shea down for, 5 or 6 minutes. They can't sit Joker down for 5 or 6 minutes. And
they get outscored by 10 every time he's off.
Right. So I think that's the biggest difference. And it's a pecking order in this specific on this specific team, because all those guys that come in, they know their role, they play it, they don't try to do too much. And I think that is a skill in itself when you got so many young guys who just gun in for points, but all those guys play the right way. Defense first, they get out in transition. They forced Denver into a 20% turnover rate last game. So if they're able to do anywhere close to that, which they've been doing all year long, then I think that could lead to some points. But I think Denver will do a better job at home taking care of the ball. And they have to slow the game down. They can't run with these guys. So that's what I'm going with. I'm going with the slow down pace. I'll go under because I like the Nuggets plus the 5.5.
Yeah, once again, I think it's pretty correlated. But I do think at the end of the day, when you have a couple days off, you could argue that maybe they empty the tank and they try to get Joker and Murray each playing 45, 46 minutes.
Home run effort here.
Just begging to win this game.
They have to.
Even with that being the case, I don't know if that's enough.
They still can
that's
lose,
the problem. They can win the series. Like, I didn't give them much of a chance against the Clippers pre-series, and they pulled it off, so good for them. But you're just looking at the amount of elite defenders that OKC has. They can really frustrate Murray. It's not a coincidence Murray's not been very good in this series.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you have Dort, you have Caruso, Cason Wallace is good, J-Dub can switch on to guys.
Shea can switch on to
him. Can switch on. They just have so many good ball defenders. And I just think when you're looking at the Nuggets, they don't have any of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think if you're going by shot quality, which is a dangerous game to play, OKC should generate better shots over the course of every game. They should. So I think that they have a good chance to win the series pretty comfortably. If you told me, hypothetically speaking, that OKC won in 5 and did not lose another game in the series, I would not call you crazy.
We both picked them in 5, didn't we?
I picked them in 6. I gave Denver one more game.
Yeah, I picked them in 5.
I initially did, and then I thought about it, and I gave Denver a bit more credit, thinking that Joker would find a way to steal one. And they stole game 1 because Joker dropped 40 and 20. So I gave him 6. But it is a problem when your bench is basically one guy, and the other team you're against can run about 3 deep.
And that guy is erratic, and he's been playing extremely well.
Yeah.
So if you go in by the numbers and the law of averages, he might come crashing down.
Yeah. JR, just for the record, I think if you're asking based on open shots, the Thunder are 100% generating more open shots than the Nuggets, if you're asking me. I've seen a lot of open guys. Now, Jada might brick those shots, Chet might brick those shots, but based on just the openness of these opportunities, I think the Thunder have a much easier go of it getting open looks compared to Denver.
Yeah, I mean, because they only have two creators, Joker and Murray. Nobody else can create. And a lot of the open looks that Denver are getting are warranted. Like, they want Brown to shoot. They want Russ to shoot. They want Gordon to shoot, although he's been shooting well. Yeah. But they want those three guys to shoot. And Porter, I mean, granted, if this was like a year ago or early in the season, you would kind of be a hard closeout and kind of force Porter to put the ball on the floor. But now with his shoulder, it's kind of just a lazy closeout. Like, oh, okay, if he shoots it, makes it, whatever, because of the injury. So.
Yeah, I do want to quickly pull up Porter Jr.'s numbers just for the splits, because actually I'm curious. So in the regular season, he shot 39.5% from three, 50.4% from the floor. In the playoffs, he is shooting 37.8% from three, so not, that bad.
That's
but from
good.
the floor, 39.2%. He's dropped by 11%.
So it's 3 or nothing basically for him, because he's not going to the rim. Yeah, he's not going to the rim.
Pretty much. So you're looking at, once again, the options for Denver. They want to spam the pick and rolls with Murray and with Joker. They want to back down Joker on some mismatches occasionally if he gets Caruso or somebody switched on to him. OKC just has so many guys that can, once again, be rotated in and out. And I see Shea, who played very well in Game 2. We'll see if he keeps rolling in Game 3. But they are overloading on Shea, rightfully so. That does open up other guys, and I do think that OKC supporting cast is better than Denver's.
Yeah, I don't know. SGA is the best shot creator on the court to me. I don't know.
I'm gonna give Joker
shot creator. We're talking about creating for yourself.
Oh, you're talking about shot creator only for yourself. We're talking about.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you're talking like, to me, shot creator is
creator. You could argue Shea by himself in isolation, but Joker is the best offense creator.
Yeah, creating for others. Yeah, Joker. Yeah. By far. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So maybe that's what he means. Okay. Cool. All right.
Kind of just a compromise there, but still.
Yeah.
I do think at the end of the day, you're looking at the Thunder, who I think should win this game, in my opinion, while covering the spread. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the two games on the Friday card. Now it's time for the Lock and Dog plays. Before getting to that, though, a reminder they're brought to you by Rhythm, because they are the home of Epic Picks and Pros, available for the NBA playoffs and the prop market, so you can use Rhythm with that. Build your model, very simple and easy to do so. You can also try it for free for a week by using the 7-day free trial. Go to Rhythm, use the discount codes that they have. They have a 25% off monthly deal with promo code SGPN25, 50% off the annual deal with promo code SGPN50. That's Rhythm, promo code SGPN25, SGPN50. And a reminder, try it out for free for a week by using the 7-day free trial by going to sportsgame.com/RATHMM. We're also brought to you by MyBookie, because MyBookie.ag is a place for every sport. They have the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs. They have the baseball cards, tennis, you name it. They also have props in every game. You can also use it from a ton of locations. Also use crypto for your deposits, winning fast payouts. And a reminder, you can also use the promo code SGPN when you make a new account for a 100% odds match up to 1K. Terms and conditions apply. MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Game Podcast. Finished going through both games on the Friday card. Now it's time for the Lock and Dog picks. Lonte, I'll let you go first. What's going to be your Lock and Dog for the Friday games?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with two player props. So on the lock side, I'm going to go with over 26.5 points and rebounds for Evan Mobley. As long as that ankle holds up, I think he is in for a big night, especially on the glass. He's increased his shot usage from 15 to 17 feet. So I think we'll see more of that versus him, roll into the basket. I think he'll leave that dunker spot for Allen to get there. So I think we see a lot of him picking and popping, and he'll shoot over whoever it is, Siakam, whoever it is, he'll shoot over those guys. And I think the rebounding has always been there. So I like him over 26.5 points and rebounds. He's that shit around, looks good. So I think he'll be fine there. So I like over 26.5 points and rebounds for him. Dog-wise, I'm going to go with something that I think has to go well for the Denver Nuggets. I'm going to go Jamal Murray, 25-plus points, plus 220. He has to play well for them to be within this game. And I do think that this is one of those games that you get a home run effort for Denver, and this is their all-in game. They have to win this one to put a little bit of separation between those two and force OKC to play from uphill. So I think a lot of that has to do with Jamal Murray and his play. So give me Jamal Murray, 25-plus points, plus 220.
Okay. So for my lock and dog, I am going to stick with player props. Been doing well for me recently. For my lock, I'm going to go with Evan Mobley, actually, and I'm going to go with a defensive prop. Give me Mobley over half a steal. If I asked you what you think that price would be, do you want to guess what Mobley half a steal is? Do you want to guess, Lonte? I don't know if Lonte's there. Okay, anyway, I'll ask the comment section. If you had to guess what Mobley half a steal is in this game, what is Mobley to record a steal? You'd probably assume like minus 150. Guy won Defensive Player of the Year. You'd assume it'd probably be a somewhat expensive price. It's only minus 125. I think that's a great price. Mobley, for reference, has had at least one steal in 9 of the last 10 games. He's had at least one steal in 14 of the last 20. I think it's a very good spot. He had 2 in game 1 of this series. Give me Mobley, who I think has to play a lot of minutes for this matchup because we know how good he is defensively, and their defense has been a mess so far this postseason, or I should say in the series against Indiana. Give me Mobley over half a steal at minus 125. So I'll go with that as my lock. For my dog on the show, I was wondering if I wanted to go for a player performance double for this game, or for this overall card. So let me quickly see what I can get on the Thunder, because I want to do one play in each game. Mm-hmm. What can I get for SGA 30 and a win? Unfortunately, that's not going to be enough for me. What can I go with for this one? Sorry, trying to find something. I know I ended up winning with Chet, steals, and blocks that I gave out on the Underdog entry, which worked out last time, but I don't know if I want to go back to it. I thought about it, though.
I'll parlay. I'm going to parlay him and Mobley, steals plus blocks together.
Okay. I'm trying to think if I want to go for anything. You know what? Maybe I'll gamble on it because I do like the overall matchup for him. I don't actually... sorry, it's minus 260. What? Dort 2-3 is minus 260? That I can't take. Okay. What do I'm just trying to find something here that I can actually enjoy with the value here. I see J-Dub steals. No, I'm good on that. Caruso 10 points. No, I don't trust him offensively enough. Kaysen Wallace, no. Okay, let me just quickly check something that I can potentially find for value. Sorry, just trying to find something.
No, you're good.
What do I want to go with?
JR likes the Nuggets. Joker triple-double. Nuggets win.
I thought about Joker triple-double, actually, but I'm not going to do that.
What's that, like plus 110?
Joker triple-double?
Yeah.
You can find that. No, it's going to be like probably plus 145, if I had to guess. Oh, okay. So it's plus 117.
Yeah, I thought, yeah.
Okay. You know what? I'll actually go with a bit of a hotter take here. Because even though he had a flurry at the end of regulation, I thought he was bad for the most part in the game itself. Question is, how much of a dud am I expecting from Halliburton? Because I wanted to go for the points at 16.5 under, but unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be enough value for me. You know what? I'll actually go for something. Give me Halliburton under 8.5 assists at plus 140. He only had 4 assists in game 2. I actually like how Cleveland defended him for the most part. He ended up getting a lot of open looks there with mismatches in the final couple minutes, but he only had 4 assists in game 2. 8.5 at plus 140. If I'm picking Cleveland to win the game, it does involve them kind of neutralizing Halliburton in this game. So maybe they turn Halliburton into a score. They limit his assists. It's a risky play, but I'll go for it. Give me Halliburton under 8.5 assists as my dog here at plus 140. Anyway, I'll ask you, though, for the Underdog entry, any plays that you want to mention for this one? By the way, somebody's asking what your lock was for the show.
It was Mobley, points and rebounds, over 26.5.
And what was your dog again?
It was the 25 plus points for Jamal Murray.
Okay. And moving on to the Underdog entry here for us. Anything you want to mention for Underdog?
Like Joker rebounds, man. Like you said, this is just because I think that they're going to cover the game, so they're going to be a lot more competitive than what you think. So I think he is going to be a monster.
I have the game being close. I have OKC winning by 8, so I have him hang in there.
Yeah, so I think he'll be able to hit the glass and get some putbacks, which was completely successful in that comeback in game 1. So I like his rebounds. What is it, like 12.5, 13?
It's 13.5.
Yeah, I think he'll get 15.
Okay. So that's 13.5. Anything else you like?
What else do I like?
You want to make a case for Wiggins?
Wiggins, I do like Wiggins. Yeah, let's do Wiggins. That's fine.
Okay. Wiggins points are at 5.5.
Yeah.
which I think is very low. We'll go with the higher on that.
Yeah, I like that.
And then we'll do something for the other game. Do you want to just do Mobley steals if they have it?
Yeah, steals plus blocks if they have that. I think that's because Heason helps out a lot whenever Jared Allen is on. Jared Allen's actually been on the perimeter a lot more than what I thought, and he's done a good job. He's done a good job when Mobley was there. So, I mean, obviously only 2 games.
Steals and blocks, unfortunately, I don't see. If you wanted to go for steals, though, by itself, you can find steals. Sorry, trying to find it. Where the hell is it? Steals you can find at. Actually, no, it's not an underdog either. So, no, we can't do anything for Mobley defensively.
Okay, so good.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else we want. Do we want to go for a Mitchell play? Do we want to go for a Jerome fade?
I like Mitchell threes. Is it 3.5?
Let me check. He's been shooting terribly, but maybe Garland coming back is going to help him out with that.
It'll open the driving lanes up.
And the volume's been there.
Yeah,
his threes are at 3.5, which I think is a bit high.
Yeah, I think he'll make 5. I
think it's a bit high though for the numbers he's had this series so far.
Yeah,
I wish it was a 2.5. 3.5's a bit much for me personally.
Trying
to wonder if there's anything else that we want to go with. You want to fade Nembhard? Actually, no. We'll go back to what I said I wanted to do last episode. I want to fade DeAndre Hunter, who's shooting with basically one less finger. Give me Hunter, a lower 12.5 points.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah,
so I'll go with those 3 for the underdog entry. So once again, the plays here, we're going to go with DeAndre Hunter lower, 12.5 points. Joker higher, 13.5 rebounds. And we are going to go with Wiggins higher, 5.5 points as the underdog entry. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Reminder back once again later today for the Friday night episode for the Saturday games. Lonte, anything else you want to add?
That's about it, man. Good luck to everybody this weekend.
Yep, should be fun. Either way, they'll